Hi friends, welcome to this week's Ask GuG. My name is Jetpack. Some people also know me as JP or Jetpack Paul. I'm going to be answering your questions, but first, a little bit about me. I am 28 now. I'm recording this on my birthday, so that's weird saying that, first of all. I recently moved to Anchorage, Alaska. I'm one of the comic book writers for Geeks Under Grace. I also will occasionally do like a comic book movie review or random other things wherever I'm needed, but I'm trying to stick to comics for the next little bit, so we will see. So you have sent in your questions. I have placed them into a mug. I've like cut them up and stuff and put them on here. Just so that, you know, it's a little bit more randomized and a little bit more off the cuff, and so you can, it's just a little bit more fun. You can enjoy it. You can enjoy it that way, because who knows what's going to come next? I don't even know. So, let's get started. Our first question is going to be, are you only a Marvel man, or are you also a DC dude, and why? Thank you, Nolan, for sending that question. So, I'm mainly a Marvel man, and I think that is just because what really got me started into comics was the X-Men movies, and so I kind of just pursued getting to know them, so I just started reading a whole bunch of Marvel and never really got into DC. I think I picked up a couple initially, but were just kind of like, man, this doesn't interest me as much. I will pick up a Batman comic every once in a while, but not frequently enough to say, yeah, I really like DC or really read DC. Occasionally, I will pick up indie comics, which I have enjoyed quite a bit. So I will read things outside of Marvel, but they're just kind of my go-to / after I've been reading them for a couple of years, I've kind of gotten to know their world a lot more, so I just pick up those because I've already invested a lot of time with that. So thank you for your question. Next question. What would you suggest first for someone looking to get into comics? Thank you, Hunter, for that question. If you're looking to get into comics, I think there's a few questions you have to ask yourself. First one is, when you say comics, do you mean like Western comics or do you mean like manga? If it's manga, I don't know. Just start reading Naruto or the famous ones, because that's what I would do probably. I would just start somewhere that I know there was like a good story and that it was popular. If you're looking for Western comics, I would first ask yourself if you know if there's a certain superhero or team of people that you're more interested in. For me, I chose X-Men, and then the first thing I started doing was I went on Wikipedia and I just started looking up all the information on my favorite superheroes from the movies. But if you are finally looking into picking up some comics, there are two things I would recommend. First, you might want to go to a local comic book shop and just kind of go there. And if you have a good comic book shop, you'll know it's good because the staff will be willing to answer questions. So go to your local comic book shop. Then I would recommend, if you don't want to buy books there because maybe they're kind of expensive or you're just really not sure, I would recommend going to half.com. You can find books on there, any type of books there, for really cheap. Most of the time it's even like 50% or more off, and so a lot of trades that I've gotten, because I buy single issue comics, but when I purchase trades, I've oftentimes bought them from half.com because they're way cheaper, even though a lot of local comic book shops will give you like a 10% discount or something like that. So I hope that helps you, Hunter. I know that can be kind of a big mountain to climb because no one really helps you out along the way, so I'm actually planning on making a video soon on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/jetpackpaul, and I want to talk about what to do when you get into a comic book shop and all that kind of stuff. So maybe that'll help you out in the future. Right, for our next question. Okay, I put these three questions on the same one because I thought it would be much easier, because they're all about Alaska. So why Alaska? The short story is that I came and visited some friends in 2013 just for a week, fell in love with it. It's just, Anchorage is just so beautiful, and I've never really lived anywhere near mountains, and so just being able to go to anywhere and just see mountains Like, no matter where you look, it's just pretty amazing. While I was up here visiting, I met the Dean of Admissions to Wayland Baptist, which is a Christian university up here, and so I just applied and was like, hey, I told him, I was like, hey, just so you know, I'm applying and I would really love to go to your school because they are also offering a biblical counseling master's, which is what the eventual goal is. I just have to finish my undergrad first. So that is why Alaska. The weather is really nice. For one, the summers are really mild. I don't really like hot weather, so having just kind of like, I think maybe the hottest it got was 70 something this past summer. Maybe there was one day that went up to 80, but I really don't remember. I think it was like 78, 76 for the most part, which was great. The past couple of days it's been pretty cold. It's been like single-digit temperatures as the high. And is Alaska as beautiful as they make it seem? The answer to that is yes. And if you guys ever come visit, let me know. I would love to take you guys out to pizza or something, so just send me a message. Our next question. How would you relate comic book heroes with our faith? Asks Joe. Great question. So I one time had to do a paper on the word folklore and what that meant and how it related to stories that we read and stories that we tell and all that kind of stuff. The main point about folklore is that it is a device used to further our beliefs and kind of share what we truly value and all that kind of stuff. I find that definition also kind of makes sense with why I read superhero comics particularly, in that a lot of superheroes tend to live out the beliefs that I value. There's a big theme of sacrifice in superhero comics, and so I think really reading them, it kind of helps me reinforce what I already believe. And I know we've talked about this in the podcast a little bit, but I think it's also interesting seeing secular writers bringing out these values and these virtues. I think as Christians, we can look at this media in any media, whether it's movies or comic books or video games, and find truths that we can point to. And I think that's really important for a Christian to be able to do, because it allows us to then go into those communities and talk about those things like, hey, I really liked this past issue of Captain America because blank, because of the sacrifice that was shown, and that kind of reminds me of the sacrifice that we're called to be because Jesus. So for me, reading comic book heroes is something that reaffirms what I believe, but is also a great gateway into talking to other people about what I believe, what does Christianity stand up for, and more. Next question. If you had the ability to grant yourself one Super Mario Bros. Power-up 3 times a day for life, which would you pick and why? Steve. I don't know if you were talking about the original Super Mario Bros. Or if you're talking about the franchise. So I'm going to go with the franchise because I would pick the Lucky Cat Bell from Super Mario 3D World. 1, because catsuit. 2, you can butt stomp. 3, when you butt stomp, coins come out. So, do I even need to explain myself? Next question. Who is your favorite fictional character and why? Sean. This is going to be a very difficult question for me to answer. I think my go-to fictional character would be Kitty Pryde or Shadowcat. For whatever reason, she's just been my favorite from pretty much the beginning of my X-Men love. I think that's because, for one, she is religious. Granted, she's Jewish, but she is religious and is very firm in her beliefs. Also, as a female comic book character, she's fairly modest. Always pretty much, you know, her costume covers everything. I also really like her superpower. If I had one, I would want to be phasing just like she does. I think it's also great when you see a writer who can creatively use her ability, because it's not one that has a lot of utility. For her ability, it's just, you have to be really creative. And I think whenever that comes out, it just makes her stand out even more. Being decisive now. Kitty Pryde. That's my answer. Next question. Who are your real-life heroes and why? From Daniel. My real-life heroes, the people I look up to, are people in my life, like my friends, I think I could look at most of my friends and say, you know, this is a character quality that I really appreciate about them and that I hope to grow in myself. I try to surround myself with people who will challenge me and grow. Next question. In reference to your avatar, did you have to skin the Pikachu you're wearing yourself in the Alaskan wilds? The answer to that is no, because it's actually a fox. See, fox ears, foxy smile. There's also tail, but you can't see it. But anyway, this is a Kigurumi, if you don't know, and they're just so comfortable, and it's so great because it's cold here in Alaska, and it's just like, they're just the best pajamas ever. So, next question. What are your thoughts on the upcoming Deadpool and supposed Gambit movies? Nolan. I am looking forward to the Gambit movie because I think it'll be interesting. It sounds like they're trying to do something different. I think Channing Tatum as the choice for Gambit is very interesting. I think he'll do a good job. Supposedly he's Cajun, and apparently has relatives who are Cajun, so maybe he can really do that Cajun accent, but we will see about that. As for Deadpool, I'm not a huge Ryan Reynolds fan, so I really am not putting a lot of expectations on it. I think it'll be fun. I don't know if it'll be what it could be, since I know that they're going for a PG-13 rating and all that kind of stuff, when in the comics of Deadpool that I've read, all of them just have wacky, insane violence, and I don't know if any of that will actually be able to go in there. So we will see. I'm more iffy on Deadpool, but I'm looking forward to Gambit. So thank you for your question. And then the very last one. What's the best X-Men game? The worst. Same for the movies. Best X-Men game. I really haven't played that many. I would say X-Men Legends was pretty great, though I played it on the GameCube. I think that was out on the GameCube. And that was pretty fun. I enjoyed playing as those characters, and I think even like graphics-wise, it really wasn't that bad. Like looking back, it was a pretty like decent game. For worst, I would say X-Men Destiny. I played that. I rented it once a couple years ago whenever it came out, and I enjoyed the like shadow dark powers that you could play with, but for the most part, it was just kind of a really meh game. Now, I will say most X-Men games disappoint me because most of the time you can't play as Kitty Pryde because I guess her superpower would be pretty game-breaking. But there is an iPhone X-Men game that's pretty decent, granted repetitive, that you can actually play as Kitty Pryde as one of the characters, and it's super good. I think it's just X-Men Days of Future Past. So if you have an iPhone or probably Android as well, go look that up. Worst X-Men movie would be Wolverine, hands down, no question. Granted, the second Wolverine movie was great. That was a great movie. But I would say my favorite X-Men movie probably has to be Days of Future Past. I think overall it was a very well-rounded movie. They got to show some abilities, but it wasn't too overwhelming. My only complaint is it could have had way more Kitty Pryde because the comics are totally different. And if you're interested in learning more about what the comics are like, you should check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/jetpackpaul, because I actually have a review for that movie where I kind of compare the comics and the movie. So that's all I've got. Thank you for watching. If you want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter at jetpackpaul or on YouTube as jetpackpaul. On my YouTube channel, I talk about comics and try to make it easy and digestible for anyone, even if you don't read comics. I also talk about comic book movies and reviews and all that kind of stuff. You should also subscribe to Geeks Under Grace. We will have more Ask GuG videos, news, gameplay videos, all of the things. We will have all of the things. So if you like this video, please like it, share it, subscribe to these channels and my channel as well. And that's all I've got for you. So thanks for watching.